Today I'd like to revisit some of the core ideas from the book, The Creative Act by Rubin. I made a full visual summary of that book a little while back, so you can check out that video if you're interested. Today I wanted to focus on this idea of the 4 phases of creative work. It might feel a little bit daunting at the beginning of this process to kind of be looking up at this big mountain, knowing that there's a thing that you want to create, but also knowing that the journey ahead is long and might be a little bit arduous. But I really appreciate the 4 phases of work that Rubin describes that I think can make the journey more enjoyable. So in phase 1 here, what you're doing is collecting seeds. So here, think of yourself, as a forager perhaps, going out in nature, observing and collecting ideas that you might or might not actually work with, that may or may not make their way into the completed piece of work. In phase 2, we enter the experiment phase. Here, the thing that you're working on is starting to grow, and your job at this stage isn't yet to infuse it with your own ideas or really take too much control over it, but instead it is to facilitate the exploration of where those seeds might want to go on their own. Here, the imperative is to try everything. Let the work follow its kind of natural course without being too judgmental about any particular branch. It's in the 3rd phase of crafting where you actually decide, okay, I think these couple of branches have the most potential. This is where you do a little bit of deciding on which branch to fully pursue. And then you begin the somewhat long, potentially arduous climb up a spiral staircase as you actually do the work of bringing that piece of art into existence. And as you do that work, as you make decisions along the way, moving closer and closer toward completing that thing, one useful tool is the simple A/B test. If you're not sure which direction to take a piece of work, take it in 2 directions, write 2 different versions of the paragraph, 2 different choruses, and then decide which one you like best. Because often it's not until you have something to compare it to that you can actually tell which one might be the best version of that thing. The final stage is the completion stage. This is the first part of the process where you might actually show your thing to someone else. You talk through something that you're working on. You perform that song for some friends. You read a chapter of your book out loud, not necessarily to get the feedback from this person, but more to experience what it feels like to share that work in front of someone else. Because all of these 3 phases, the first 3, you're kind of doing that work on your own in relative isolation. And then here you actually kind of deliver it with an audience. And that act of delivering it is going to give you insight on what works and what doesn't. And that's what can help you do the final bit of refining that might be needed before you can ultimately push the thing off the cliff. Because that is what we're getting to as we go through these stages of building up this creative work. It is a little bit like pushing a boulder up a hill. Sometimes you'll feel momentum, sometimes you won't. The goal is to get to the place where you can actually release this thing out into the world. And at this point, it's not yours anymore. You let go of control over what it is so that you can move on to the next one. Because that's the thing about creative work. There's no limit to the number of things that you make. Seth Godin uses the term infinite bowling to describe the opportunity that we have as creators to make work and put it out in the world. And even if 1 bowling ball isn't a strike, even if 9 out of 10 aren't strikes, maybe 1 out of 10 is. That's how I like to think about most of the work that I do, whether it be workshops that I'm delivering, courses I develop, or videos that I make. I would describe this video itself as an experiment, a rough reframing and redrawing of ideas that I've shared before, but ones that I want to revisit myself, and ones that I think you might benefit from hearing again. So I would be curious to hear what of this creative process is resonating with you right now. Where are you in a piece of work that you're spending time on? If you enjoyed this format of sketching out ideas from a good book that you're reading, or even to support the development of a particular creative project, this is a skill that I teach. And you can find more information about that, along with some resources, at verbaltovisual.com. Thanks for watching.